evening. Hi, my name is Yvonne Clayton. I'm a councilman here in Asbury Park, and I want to welcome you to this wonderful evening. Can you hear me? I'm sorry. Again, hi, my name is Yvonne Clayton. I'm a councilman here in Asbury Park, and I'm here to welcome you to this meeting regarding choice. It's an opportunity for you to voice your opinions, to listen to what's been going on before this evening, and it's something else that's coming to the West Side. We are so pleased to welcome all of you tonight and to welcome our staff and the presenters. So sit back, relax, and please engage, give us your opinions, give us your feedback. And with that, I'd like to introduce to you Tyrone Garrett, who is the head of the Housing Authority.
Thank you, Councilwoman Clayton. Good evening, everyone. I really appreciate your attention. You taking out the time in the summer month to actually, summer night, summer evening, to be here with us to talk about choice neighborhoods. The one thing that I want to stress to you about choice and about this endeavor that the Housing Authority is taking on is that it doesn't stop there. We have other items and other agendas with other organizations such as Interfaith with their Wells Fargo grant, and the Housing Authority itself with two other initiatives that are impacting residents on the West Side. We have the RAD renovation project for the senior buildings, and we also have the Boston Way project that will get underway within the next 60 days. When I first started with the Asbury Park Housing Authority 5 years ago, we made a concerted effort to promise 4 things. The first, financial stability. The second, the demolition of Boston Way. The third, a choice neighborhoods endeavor. And the fourth, the opportunity to rehab the senior buildings. And we've done those things thus far. And we're at a point where that endeavor, those ideas and concepts have taken flight, and other organizations have jumped on board with us. And you're the focal point of what we're trying to do. You're the residents, you're the stakeholders, you're the individuals who are going to make this project, the choice neighborhoods, and the other projects on the West Side grow at warp speed. And again, I'd like to thank you for being here. If there's anything that we can do, any information that you're looking for from the Housing Authority, or for that matter, members of the city, because they're our strong partners along with Interfaith, just ask. If you don't have the information up front, we'll get it to you at a later time. And just also let you know, I'm a background singer. I've always been a background singer. Being out in front on initiatives like this is not something that I do. I stay in the background for the most part and try to do the hard labor and carry the water. This guy over here, he stays out front, Chairman Hobson. So I'm going to pass it off to him. He enjoys doing the public speaking. He enjoys being out in front, and he has a right to do, along with Vice Chairman Syfax. They have a right to be proud about the things that the Housing Authority is attempting to do, and what we will accomplish in the future. Chairman Hobson.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett. He was wrong about that. I don't like being out front. They push me out front. Again, I'm Greg Hobson, Chairman of the Asbury Park Housing Authority. It is my pleasure. I thought more of my commissioners would be here tonight, but it's my pleasure to introduce my vice chair, my right arm, the guy that at every meeting, everything that I do, Vice Chair Commissioner Syfax.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank God that I'm above ground and seeing things that's happening on the West Side. I thank you guys for showing up this afternoon, but the main thing is I got to get some of my people out here to know what's going on the West Side. Every time I look around, there's always stuff going on the East Side, but we got to get back to the way we used to do things on the West Side. We're going to start the redevelopment, and it's going to be good. We got jobs that's going to be coming on the West Side. We had a time to really sit down with the developer and really negotiate with them as far as what we want here on the West Side. I just get tired, and Mr. Hobson, he gets tired of seeing developers coming in here and just take, but don't give nothing back. Well, right now, we as commissioners are really doing something. Thank God for the interim director, Mr. Garrett, yes. Mr. Gibson. and also all the Long Branch staff that helps our staff here in Asbury Park. Once again, we're on the move, and it's going to be good, and I hope that all you guys get involved, white, black, Hispanic, Haitian, everybody. Let the word go out that we're doing something on the west side. Thank you.
I guess there's nothing else for me to say. Once again, thank you to all of our partners, our stakeholders, our investors, everyone involved. Special thank to our consultants, WRT, because without them, none of this would be possible. We get to look good, but they truly sit in the background and they do all the hard work. They crunch the numbers. They take every little note that we send them and they make sense out of it. And a lot of stuff that we send them doesn't make sense when it leaves us and goes to them. But by the time it comes back to us on a nice chart or a nice graph, it makes a lot of sense. So again, Wu Kim, thank you and your staff very much. And at that point, I now turn it over to our consultant, Mr. Wood.
Good evening, everyone. Can I see a show of hands? How many of you are not initiated to Choice Neighborhoods? This is your first Choice Neighborhood meeting. Okay, all right. So about 6, 7 of you. Let me just give you a quick 1-minute update of what we're doing here. Choice Neighborhoods is a program sponsored by HUD, Housing and Urban Development. Yes, that federal agency still exists, and it is functioning. In fact, there is another round of choice planning grants out right now. There's a NOFA out for it right now. So HUD is continuing to fund this program, and we're optimistic that this program will continue to exist. This program actually is a successor to a program called Hope 6. You may be familiar with that. Tyrone, Danny, Dorothy, they did a lot of work in Long Branch through the Hope 6 program. You may be familiar with Garfield Courts, Woodrow Wilson, those developments out in Long Branch, where we tore down distressed public housing sites and we rebuilt them as mixed income communities. That's Hope 6. Choice is similar to that. That's one of the components of Choice, but in addition to the housing component, Choice Neighborhoods has a people and a neighborhood component, because we are looking to transform not just housing, but transform lives and transform the context in which the housing is sited. So that's Choice Neighborhoods in a nutshell. Where we are in the process, we started this about exactly a year ago, and this is a 2-year planning process. We just finished up the needs assessment, and needs assessment is just HUD speak for survey. A lot of you have seen these surveys. They were pretty lengthy surveys, and a big thank you to Monmouth University and their students who helped. Yes. Nancy and Robin in the back there, background singers I see. They did a lot of hard work, and what we're going to do tonight are 2 things. One is we are here to present to you sort of high-level findings of that needs assessment. Some of the things will be surprising to you, some of the things will not be so surprising to you. Regardless, this was something that was required by the HUD planning grant. The other part of the activity for tonight is we're going to break out into working groups. If you've been to this meeting before, you've seen us break out into 7 working groups. We once had a point where this room was filled and we could break out into 7 working groups. I think because of the weather and summer, we don't have as many people today, but we're still going to break out into groups. I think we're going to break out into groups of housing, people, and neighborhood. And we're going to try to advance the plan. So you'll be equipped with the information that you've been given. There's handouts if you need more information. You can go to the website. Everything that I'm presenting today actually lives online on the website, so you don't need a copy of the PowerPoint. You just go to www.asburyparkchoice.com and you'll see everything that I'm presenting today. Hopefully you'll be equipped with that and you can join these working groups and start. This is a really critical time because you're going to start talking about what you want to see in the plan and the change that you want to see in this neighborhood. Hopefully for many of you who are professionals, you're stakeholders, you're experts in certain fields, you can implement certain types of change in this neighborhood. Others are residents, you can give your input for the change that you want in your neighborhood. So please participate, and we'll have many more meetings like this. Hopefully you'll continue to come out, invite your neighbors and your friends to come out and give us your input, because this plan is only shaped by you. The consultants don't shape this plan. The housing authority cannot shape this plan. The community shapes this plan, and that's HUD's requirement for this plan. So let me go over the needs assessment. You can see here we had 165 total surveys completed, and these surveys were, some of them took about 3 hours to complete, so it was quite a feat. As per the grant requirement, we are required to survey at least 50% of Lincoln Village households. We ended up surveying about 71% Lincoln Village households, so we surpassed that threshold. But in addition to Lincoln Village, we also surveyed a lot of neighborhood residents and even some folks who live on the fringes of the neighborhood. I mean, we know like north of Asbury Avenue is not exactly the west side as per our neighborhood boundary, but they face a lot of the same issues. So we accepted those surveys as well. I'm going to talk about key themes here. I'll talk about a quick summary of Lincoln Village residents, and then I'll cover housing results. Laurel will cover the neighborhood results, and Heather will cover the people results. And again, you can go to the website and click on these links, and it is a dynamic sort of presentation. So, key themes. So, through the survey we heard that there's a mixture of opinions about where people think this neighborhood is going. Is it going up? Is it going down? Is it going backwards? In general, people were very optimistic. 35% of residents sort of reported living to be near friends and family, that's why they live here. About 50% of residents actually connected to other community members. So there's a sense of community here because they're speaking to neighbors for a certain period of time. The majority of people wanted to be involved to make their neighborhood safer. That was something that we saw in our survey, is that people said, yes, I want to do something about making my neighborhood safer. And 56% of residents felt that the neighborhood would improve a lot or improve some over the next 3 years. It's important to note that the next 3 years will be the year 2020, which I've been reminded is a 50-year, I guess anniversary is probably too strong of a word, from when the riots occurred and Springwood Avenue, a lot of the vacancy resulted. So it's really encouraging to hear that a lot of people feel like there will be a lot of positive change in the year 2020. Going down to, and by the way, this wasn't just analysis of the surveys that we took through Interfaith Neighbors work, through the Wells Fargo Planning Grant work. They've also shared with us their survey results from 2008, 2014, 2016, and we were able to kind of see the trends of how this neighborhood is improving and the sentiment that the people in this neighborhood feel about their community. So when it comes to community growth, most people, as I mentioned, felt that the neighborhood as community has improved. About a quarter of the people have said that it's more or less stayed the same, and about a quarter of the people said that it's declined some or declined a lot. So that's something that we have to work on. And that's why we're planning, and that's why we encourage you to come out to these meetings. It's also really encouraging to hear that in a span of about 8 years, you had a 14 percentage point jump of people who said that they would choose to continue to live in this neighborhood. So that's really encouraging to hear, that people are now starting to feel like, yes, I want to stay here. And again, there is a similar percentage jump of people who feel satisfied living in this community. So these are important things. And by the way, I want to stop here and say, we're not going to build a plan just based on numbers. This is not a data-driven plan, but data is part of the input that will drive the plan. We also want to hear your input and your comments as well. So this is both going to be quantitative and qualitative. When it comes to communication, 80% of the respondents were aware, but they weren't participating. And if you click on some of the organizations, we had a constellation of organizations and programs. This city, this neighborhood is not for lack of programs and organizations. It's that people either don't know about it or they know about it and they're just not participating. And one of the challenges that we have as a community is to figure out why and how to get people past that threshold, because a lot of these programs are good programs. And then if you look to the right there, those were sort of ranked in order of most highly used to the least used organizations. And you can see for yourself, you know, the churches are a really important sort of anchor in this community. A lot of people have their services met and they feel connected through the network of churches in the West Side. And that's something that we need to pay very close attention to. Is there a beeping?
Yes. Yeah, there's.
Okay. Okay, so, and finally, the way that people receive information here, the most common methods are word of mouth, places of worship, that's not surprising, and then newsletters and community spaces. The least common methods were robocalls, city websites, and social media. That doesn't mean that they were ineffective, it was just people weren't using that as much. And that's something important to know, especially when we try to get information out to people, and that's a big part of the implementation effort. So if you go back to the So let me just spend a couple minutes on Lincoln Village residents. The reason why we have a focus on Lincoln Village residents, you have to remember that this is a HUD-funded grant. And HUD, while this is a neighborhood plan, at the center of this neighborhood plan is HUD's asset, which is Lincoln Village. It's a public housing site. And so one of the requirements is to dissect the survey results to understand the unique needs of Lincoln Village residents. And from the surveys and from demographic information, we've learned that the average household size is about 2.5. 87% of households have female head of households, and 70% of respondents believe affordable housing should not just be constructed on the Lincoln Village site or on the west side, but it should be constructed throughout the city of Asbury Park. So they felt like there should be equitable distribution of affordable housing everywhere, east side and the west side. And if you click on the link there, I think it just shows you this is our neighborhood boundary, the west side boundary, and then you all are very familiar with the east side and the remainder of the city. So. Also, Lincoln Village has a mixture of people who have lived there for a very short time, so more of a transient crowd. And then they also have some folks who've lived there for 6 plus, 10 plus years. So it's really a sort of a mixed demographic there. If you scroll down. We really needed to know where the kids were going to school. Not just Lincoln Village residents, but where kids in the west side were going to school. We know where the schools are, but through the survey we found out that Lincoln Village residents, a certain number of them go to Barack Obama Elementary, they go to Thurgood Marshall Elementary, and they go to Hope Academy Charter School for elementary school. And then we have some students who go to the middle school, which I think there's only one middle school here in the city, correct? And the important thing to note is that almost 70% of respondents do not participate in after-school programs. And if you dive a little deeper into that, these are the reasons that they gave for not participating in after-school programs. They're either not interested, the location was too far, and there was no transportation to get there, or there's just no information about it. So again, we need to get over some of these thresholds. When it comes to employment, a quarter of Lincoln Village residents are unemployed and they're looking for work. A quarter of them are retired. And the average number of hours worked per week is about 26, 27 hours of work per week. So it shows that they're certainly underworked, they're underemployed. And that's certainly going to be a part of the choice plan, is to figure out how do we get employment opportunities to the places in the neighborhood where people need them the most. Another focus on choice neighborhoods is health, to understand health insurance and whether folks have a medical home. Through the survey, we found out the types of insurance that people have in Lincoln Village, and here's a breakdown. And then 65% of respondents, they receive information, health information from their primary care doctor, but that's just supposed to show that 35%, if you click on the eye there, a big percentage of folks actually don't have a medical home. 35% of people are going to either urgent care centers or the ER. There's not very sort of cost-effective ways to treat sort of medical care, so non-emergency medical care. And we also asked some questions about personal health or physical health, and we learned that the conditions that Lincoln Village residents struggle with most are high blood pressure, heart disease, asthma, cancer, diabetes, high cholesterol, lead poisoning, obesity, depression. And if you click on the eye there, I think you'll see the top three, which is high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and asthma. So again, something for you as you break out into your groups to think about. What can we do to address some of these issues and these needs? When it comes to public safety, people, there's reality and then there's perception. So there's reality of crime rates in this neighborhood, and then there's also a perceived, issue of safety and crime. And 62% of Lincoln Village households felt that it was unsafe for their children to play outside, which is not surprising because we hardly ever see any kids running around outside. I think a lot of families feel that it's just not safe and they're keeping them indoors. And when we asked folks in Lincoln Village about their top 5 safety issues, these came up as the top 5 issues. Drug use, drug sales, number 1, gun violence, homelessness, gang activity, and then just larceny. So scrolling down to transportation. So this is coming up over and over again, that a lot of the reasons why people are not connected to services or having a hard time being fully employed is, this may be a reason, is that 70% of the households, they don't own a personal vehicle at Lincoln Village. So they're relying on public transportation, on taxis, or just being able to walk to these places. So again, something for us to think about as a community. How do we address this need? Is that it? And then these were the top 5 greatest mobility and neighborhood problems: litter, parking, neighborhood parks, sidewalk conditions, and pedestrian safety. Also important to note that people who live in public housing are no different from the rest of us. And you can see from the responses that they share a lot of the same values. And when we ask folks, what were the most important values in raising your children? Honesty, kindness, obedience, all these things came up. And this was across the board. I mean, whether you're a public housing resident or you were just a neighborhood resident, or if you're a higher income resident, everyone felt, had some shared values in terms of what they wanted to see in their family. So, back to housing. So, yes.
I've been living in that building for 50 years on Memorial Drive. I lived 30 years on Lancaster Street. Asbury Park is not doing nothing in Lakewood. People are coming in there doing anything that they want to do. The poor people is walking like me. I'm 93 years old. I spent 80 years trying to help Mama's Park. Asbury Park Village. And you're not doing nothing. Everybody claims they're so busy doing this, but you can't say nothing what they're doing.
So,
people come there at nighttime. They bring garbage from other different houses, hotels or something. Put their garbage in Lincoln Village. Now then, as they park, people that live there, they don't have no place to put it, so they just dump it on the ground. And then another thing, they put these little kids like this here, sending those kids to put bags in the garbage. They can't even reach it. And the rats and the things in the building had bed bugs, but thank God I got rid of the bed bugs last year. But the little rats are coming there like little babies. and it's in the building. They beat me upstairs.
We know
And
about
they're
these
not doing
issues,
nothing.
and that's the reason why the Housing Authority embarked on this plan, because they know that Lincoln Village is a distressed public housing site and it needs to be redeveloped. But we can't, if we just tear down public housing and put back brand new public housing, we haven't changed anything, and that's why we're going through
They
it.
haven't done anything in
Right,
the village.
so
That used to be
we're going through a
the
neighborhood
village-
planning
the
process.
village is there, but now
Ma'am,
it's
so
commercial. I know because they knew that I lived there.
Right.
I lived there for 30 years or something,
So
and trying to help them.
there's a second half to this presentation where we welcome your input and discussion. In fact, I hope that you join me in the art room over there where we'll be talking about housing. And I think you should join me in that meeting where I want to really hear your comments and your concerns. I do want to get through this presentation, so if you just bear with me for a few more minutes.
I'll be more than glad to help you. Anything that I can do for all these many years I have helped you. 80 years of my life I've been living in Lincoln Village and West End, trying to help the housing authority. When Miss Sweeney was there, I used to comment and also I worked in the court. It has been
Yeah.
7 years and it has been, they
Yeah.
call me Judge Judy. I'm serious. I mean, because I'm always,
Okay.
Judge Judy this, Judge Judy that. Listen, I'm 93 years old now.
Okay, all right.
But I'm still willing to help anybody else that wants help. Just
Okay.
call me and I'll be more than glad to help.
Thank you for
I
that.
spent all my life.
Thank you for that. So, going over the housing results. Now, these are results from all respondents, not just Lincoln Village respondents. We had about 25% of folks living with adults other than their husband and wife, so sort of non-traditional families. Something for us to think about as we think about the housing program in the choice plan is that, you know, maybe the conventional sort of 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom and 1 bathroom is not appropriate. Maybe we should be thinking about 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms because there's some roommate situation going on here, or there's an adult child here. We want to be sensitive to that, and the reason for doing these surveys is to pick up on those nuances. So if you click on the eye there, so this gives you a little bit more information about the types of the respondents. You close that out. Housing characteristics. This is a majority rental community, and the survey respondents were mostly renters. If you click on the eye for more information. So these were, when it comes to the renters, most of the respondents were housing authority tenants, and then we had some other sort of private and individual property owners that filled out the survey. Just so you know who filled out the survey. This is not a scientific survey, I understand that, so don't feel like we captured a perfect cross-section of this neighborhood. HUD understands this is not a scientific survey, but they still want us to be informed by the survey. So you go down. The housing tenure of the tenants. So it's a mixture of, you know, folks who've lived there, you know, less than 5 years to folks who've lived there 5+ years. When it comes to home ownership, however, a lot of the people that here who own homes have been here for a while, been here for 10+ years. But it's also important to note that there's been people who actually purchased homes here in the past 5 years. That's a good sign. It's a sign that, you know, since the recession, people are actually seeing this neighborhood as a place that they want to invest in. So that's very encouraging. If you scroll down. We asked folks about internet access, and this is the results that they gave us. If you click on the eye, I think you'll actually see you know, where they go to access Wi-Fi. So we know some people go to the library, some people go to their friends and families. A third of the people say I don't need it, or just a quarter of people say I use my phone. This is really important because, as you know, looking for a job, doing homework, you know, more and more we need high-speed internet to do the work that we do. And if there's a cohort in this neighborhood that doesn't have access, that's on the other side of the digital divide, we need to figure out how to get them across. So, closing that out. A third of the people have had trouble keeping up with rent payments in the past year. about half of the respondents had difficulty getting their landlord to make necessary repairs. We hear a lot of the maintenance issues of the buildings. 40% of the respondents would like to use Wi-Fi if it was free or affordable. So we see that there's a need there. So we can see through these results that, you know, there is housing insecurity is an issue here. People do feel insecure in their homes. Housing quality was ranked as the #1 greatest weakness for the neighborhood. Okay, so and as I mentioned, there has been an increase in homeownership rate from 2012 to 2016, and 38% of current renters who fill out our survey said they would like to buy a home, which is great to hear. I mean, Interfaith is actually working on homeownership units across the street, actually, right on the Turf Club site. So, you know, you'll see some homeownership units come online, and it's on you guys to inform us, should we allocate for more homeownership units in this plan, and where should we put those homeownership units? So if you click on the I, finally, I think that kind of shows you, these are the barriers, the top 3 barriers to homeownership that people have told us. It's personal financial situation, crime, other safety issues, and the housing stock is just not available in this neighborhood. So we have a sense of what the barriers are. I think next is, I'll hand it off to Laurel.
Hi everyone, my name's Laurel. I'm going to go over some of the neighborhood results. So in terms of transportation and mobility, we found some interesting issues, some of which Lou talked about. Can you scroll up a little? So in terms of how people get to work, about 47% of respondents said that they drive themselves to work. Another about 14% said they carpool, so that's more than half of respondents using a car to get to work. Very few people said that they use public transportation, and about 16% of people said that they walk to work, which is interesting because I believe if you scroll down, 61% of respondents work in either Asbury Park or Neptune City. So even though their job is very close by, a lot of people seemingly need to drive there, which is sort of speaks to a broader theme that we've found, which is that a lot of people throughout this process have said that public transportation just doesn't get them where they need to go. So if you look at that in terms of employment, on this map, you see the public transportation options that you can get from within Asbury Park, the bus lines and the train line. And the purple, the more purple areas are sort of job centers in Monmouth County. And you can see that a lot of those job centers are not accessible via public transportation. So it seems that a lot of people are sort of not able to get themselves to, you know, a good job opportunity throughout the region. So in terms of public safety, Wu mentioned a few of these things, but again, there is a very large majority of respondents who said that they were willing and ready and interested in being involved to make their neighborhood safer. If you click the I. So some of the top safety concerns we have already gone through, but some of the top most popular crime prevention efforts that people thought would be the most successful. Number 1 was better street lighting. Number 2, more security cameras in public spaces. And number 3, fewer vacant lots and abandoned buildings. In terms of perceptions of police and safety, about 50% of respondents agreed with the statement that I feel safe, fewer than 50% said I feel safe allowing my children to play outside. So perceptions of safety kind of differed between age groups. Adults tended to say that they felt safe in the neighborhood, but fewer people felt safe allowing their children to play outside. In terms of police relations, about 50% of respondents agreed with the statement, when people in my neighborhood call the police, they come right away. And in terms of communication and local amenities, as Wu mentioned, residents are often unaware or aware of but not participating in a lot of the community programs and services that are already available. I think we covered all of this, the most common, yes. So in terms of local amenities, about an average of 95% of respondents, which is almost everyone, strongly felt that the following activity spaces would be much needed in the neighborhood. So those include playgrounds, athletic fields, walking and running trails, more neighborhood parks, and community gardens. And we also asked about public art, and a strong majority, 86% of respondents, said that public art is important to a community's quality of life and identity. So that's it for neighborhood analysis, and now I'll turn it over to Heather.
Hi everyone, I'm Heather from Interfaith Neighbors. Thanks for being here. I'm just going to give some of the very high findings from the survey. When you break into your working groups, you're going to have the details of the survey results, so I encourage everybody to look at them. These are just a few takeaways, so it's the high level in the people portion of the plan. So youth and education, the findings were that overall parents are satisfied with the education system. However, according to data from the New Jersey Department of Education, the district is underperforming compared to the county and the state. 77% of parents expected their children to move on to a four-year college in the future, which is really exciting. And 70% of the parents believe that their children's current schooling was preparing them to meet those expectations. So that's excellent also. I know we already covered some of the school attendance pieces. Again, this incorporates the Lincoln Village results, so they're similar. There might be some differences there, but since you already spoke about that. Moving down to information and communication, respondents were asked about where they receive information regarding their children's schools and their satisfaction with the information received. Robocalls and text messages were ranked as the third most common source of information, but were ranked second to last for satisfaction. So it seems like that's being used a lot, but maybe people aren't very satisfied with it. So something to take away from that. And parent-teacher organizations were ranked as the least commonly used source of information, but they had the highest level of satisfaction. So it certainly seems like there's some work to be done there and something to take away from that. The high school graduation rates are listed over there on the, can you just scroll down a tiny little bit above? I'm sorry, up here. The high school graduation rates are listed over there on the side, Asbury Park compared to New Jersey and Monmouth County. And 84% of the respondents were unaware of some of the educational programs currently offered in Asbury Park. So some work there may be to be done with letting people know a little bit more about the great programs that are out there. And we talked a bit about that as one of the common themes of the findings from the needs assessment. As far as concerns for youth, the respondents found the top two most pressing challenges facing young people to be that there was not enough to do after school and exposure to gang activity. Regarding employment, respondents reported being underemployed and yet eager for new job opportunities, both ways to advance within their current employment, additional training that would allow them to advance, or advance to other jobs. General employment characteristics, the average household income, according to the American Community Survey, this is not our needs, it's the Choice Needs Assessment, you'll see there's 39,538, or 536. And then as far as skills and career resources, 66% of respondents said that they would like to participate in classes or trainings where you could gain skills for your current job or for a new job. So that's what I was just touching on. So there's the people who are out there are looking for opportunities to advance their careers. And yet 33% of the respondents had not heard of existing employment resources offered in Asbury Park. So we need to do a better job communicating that to the folks who are interested in those programs. Factors affecting employment, sorry. There are not enough jobs in the area. Number two, they may have a criminal record or records with or problems with their immigration status. I'm going to skip around because, as you can see, the numbers are not cooperating. Number 3, they lack the skills needed in today's job market. Number 5. Are you doing this to me on purpose? Number 6, there aren't enough good transportation options to get to work, which we already touched on some. Number 7, having a handicap or disability. Back to number 4, problems getting childcare. And then if we could get number 5 to come, it would be really great. There we go. That people don't have enough education. And then the final section, again, as the high-level outtakes from the needs assessment were the health and wellness outtakes. Some of this, again, Wu already touched on, and there's similar findings to the folks who live in Lincoln Village specifically. This was a different one, 36% of respondents reported participating in some form of physical activity every day other than going to work. For those who were not participating in physical activities, the number 1 reason listed was that they did not have enough time. Number 2 was that they couldn't afford it, and number 3 was physical disability or other health conditions preventing that participation. Medical conditions, this was one of the things that we covered with Lincoln Village specifically, and the numbers are similar, so we can skip over that, I think. Insurance, we also talked about. One of the statistics here, 30% of children reported, or the respondents to the survey who had children reported that the children did not have any form of health insurance, which is concerning. 71% of respondents have a primary care doctor from whom they typically receive medical advice. So that's a really good fact that people are going to their primary care doctors. We already looked at the other forms of healthcare. If I can just take 2 seconds, that's I think the end of the high level. I just want to take 2 seconds to touch on a couple things that was already said. This is very high level, everything that was just presented to you. In your working groups, you're going to have access to all of the survey results. These were just some takeaways that stood out to the Choice team, but you're really all that team. You guys informed the questions that were asked in the needs assessment, and now is the time to dig in and look at the responses that came back and figure out what they mean to your working groups. Like Wu said, it wasn't a perfect survey. It's a great survey. It's one tool to help with the planning effort and to generate some discussion, which is what we will move on to now in the working groups. So thanks, everybody.